afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today for Tuesday, June 6th. It's Coram and Ed Carson here with a breakdown of the action in today's session where we saw stocks advance, small caps outpaced the broad market today. And Ed, for so long in the bear market, we were talking about how the indexes were masking underlying weakness. And now today, the indexes were masking underlying strength. So that seems like a good sign.
Yeah, it is, especially because some of those indexes look a little extended, so them taking a break would be nice. Three stocks that sort of flash buy signals today were Shopify, TransMedics, and Taiwan Semiconductor.
All right, we'll take a look at those stocks, but first, let's analyze the major indexes. Here's a look at the NASDAQ. Some really tight action, and we did see a gain of 0.4% today for the S&P 500, a gain of about 0.25%. The Dow was slightly positive, and as mentioned, the Russell 2000 really kicking things up a notch, up 2.7% today. So with the weekly gains that we've seen over the last couple of weeks, especially for the NASDAQ, getting stronger and stronger, it seems like some sort of pause or digestion of those gains is expected. And as of now, just seeing the tight action here near these recent highs seems pretty bullish.
Yeah, it's acting well. I mean, ideally, we'd see the NASDAQ and some of these big hot names sort of pause, and some did not. And then the other indexes come up a little more breadth, and we're sort of seeing that. So it is pretty positive. We don't want to see the NASDAQ get too much more extended over the 50-day line. It didn't change too much today, so it wouldn't be bad to see this go sideways. It's right at 52-week, 13-month highs. So nice. This is acting well.
And taking a look at the S&P 500 as well, some pretty tight action here. We're seeing this 43.25 level getting closer and closer. So we're keeping an eye on that on the upside as well. But something to mention here, speaking of improving breadth, is a look at the gain that we saw for RSP today. This is the equal weighted S&P 500 ETF. So while the S&P was up about 0.2% or so, RSP continuing to improve here, Ed, up 0.7%.
Yeah, it took the 50-day and 200-day lines late last week, really needed to do that. Now it hit a 1-month high, sort of breaking some trend lines a little bit, definitely positive.
Okay, and we also want to take a look at the Dow. Here's the DIA ETF, a strong gain on Friday and not giving up too much of that gain.
Yeah, it tested the 50-day line today, ended up slightly positive. So, even the weaker areas of the market are holding up or advancing. So that's good to see.
And here's a look at IWM, the Russell 2000. Really turning it on today, Ed, after a strong gain on Friday. And we noted on Monday's show with Justin, while even though we did see a decline that outpaced the broad market, I believe, when you analyze the market every day, sometimes it's hard to keep all the numbers straight. But with this pullback that we saw on Monday, it was right at the 200-day line. And then also if you looked at the true range from the Friday gap up, still in the upper half of that range. So not all too concerning there, and blasting higher here today. So seeing small caps starting to participate in a more pronounced way.
Yeah, 3-month high basically. So, I mean, some of this was banks, but there was more than that. There was just a lot of breadth. I believe on the NYSE, advancers beat decliners by more than 3-1. I think it was 5-2 on the NASDAQ or something close to that. So, yeah, nice to see this participation because, just a couple of weeks ago, it seemed like there was like 15 stocks that were rallying. Yeah. And now it feels like, some of these names still have ways to go before a lot of stocks in here might be buyable per se, but really good to see this.
And mid caps, let's take a look at MDY, also powering higher here today, up 2%. So another sign of increased participation in the market, Ed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and let's check in on two sectors that have been leading this year, and that is software and chips. How did they fare? Well, here's a look at IGV, up another day yet again. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 up days in a row. It is now almost 10% above the 50-day line. I mean, with AI in focus right now, Ed, it's not a surprise to see this sector doing well, but it seems like it's more than that. It's more than just the promise of AI fueling this group. I mean, that's a big part of it, but
It's
it
a big
doesn't
part of
seem
it.
like that's the whole picture.
There's other names in there that don't seem to be as AI, workplace management kind of software, and we're seeing other business software do well. So, but yeah, this has definitely been strong. It actually, again, this would not be the worst if it paused here a little bit just because it gets getting extended, but it's not running away. And again, this isn't like pushing it. Like, again, even though these are advancing, they're not leading the small caps, leading the mid caps, leading like, whereas, so this is more of what you probably do right at this moment.
And we did keep track of the pullback and the bounce here and the potential opportunities with this mid-month last month. Also a look at SMH here, pausing, not even down to the 10-day line just yet, and not giving up too much ground after that explosive move we saw.
Yeah, I mean, you want to maybe go sideways, pull back a little bit, and this looks great. This looks great.
Yeah, we'll take it. Okay, well, speaking of software stocks, let's take a look at Shopify. A strong move in today's session, up more than 6%. Strong volume behind the move as well. We saw a blast out of this base on earnings in early May, an orderly pullback to a key level, the 21-day line, and held that gap up day low, and now clearing a trend line, Ed.
Yeah, you could have possibly bought it yesterday. Could have, definitely were signals this morning as it cleared the trend line today. The only thing now is that it's getting a little extended. It's starting to feel a little bit like versus the 21-day line, probably about 9% above the 21-day line. So that's one thing, but really strong move, really nice volume here. It's on track to have a base, but not for another week and a half because it's fractionally too deep to be a flat base. But this is really constructive action, coming out of that big gap up.
Right. And this feels, Ed, like a bull market buy point. I mean,
Yeah.
it's been a little while since we've felt really comfortable buying a pullback to the 21-day line after a big breakout as an initial buy. A lot of times that's reserved for an add-on entry, which traders could be doing that too. Maybe they did buy the earnings gap, and this test of the 21-day line in the bounce was an opportunity to add to their positions. But it seems like if we're talking more and more about buy points off of 21-day line bounces, that bodes well potentially for the kind of environment we're in for growth investors.
Yeah, I mean, as the market has improved a little bit, we seem to be trending higher, maybe a little bit more breadth. You can start have more of a bull market mentality because it's not like 2020. I don't know if we'll see 2020 for a long time, but it's definitely as the market improves, you can start being a little bit more aggressive.
And still follow those sell rules. We're not throwing sell rules out the window, but it is interesting to see these kinds of setups. So hopefully the momentum here can continue. And why is this our first stock we're focusing on today? Well, it was added to Leaderboard, Swing Trader, and was our stock of the day. So check out that article by IBD's Mike Larkin. Next on our list, TMDX. This is in the medical products group, which is ranked number 16 out of 197, retaking the 50-day line in a big way today in volume with a gain of over 6% here too.
Yeah, and so I think this is a pretty good entry point, strong volume, breaking above level. Yeah, there was a lot of trading in this area. Had sort of tried to break out a couple months ago. That didn't work out, but it's setting up right next to it. This is where we talk about trying to go for early entries, and this is definitely a situation because it's pretty close to the 50-day line. If it runs up to the buy point, you could easily imagine a pullback. It doesn't necessarily mean to. We've seen stocks just keep running, but the risks are much higher, and so this seems like a good place to be entering the stock at the really strong volume. It's not profitable, but the growth is strong, and it's supposed to be profitable next year. So it seems to be the losses seem to be getting smaller. So that is a reason to also the fundamentals are starting to look a little better.
Some really explosive top line growth here. And Ed, I think this weekly chart definitely adds to the picture here with this stock bottoming in February of 2022. That's when a lot of stocks were struggling. So to see it having such a nice move since then, I guess the only red flag at this stage is this later in the stock's move? Is it a later stage base? Later stage bases, of course, can work, but the further you are into a stock's move, the higher chances that you could be getting towards the top.
That is a potential risk. We have seen, it seems like stocks have been able to have later stage bases at times. They can sometimes move on to stage 5 or even stage 6 at times. So that's something to note, but it isn't something that it's more like a yellow alert or yellow flag, not a red flag.
Yes, agreed. And now let's take a look at TSM. This is Taiwan Semiconductor, of course, chip stocks. We want to be casting a wide net, looking at all the chip stocks on the move because that sector has just been showing power as of late. And we did get a breakout on 525, a move of 12%. In some pretty big volume. And it looks like the pullback over the last 2 weeks or so has been in orderly fashion, Ed.
Yeah, and this is what we've seen with some of the stocks. They sort of broke out, and some of the big moves. This one moved probably on NVIDIA because NVIDIA is a big customer. All the chips were flying at that moment, so they came in, and now it's paused a little bit. It was a nice test of the 21-day line. Didn't look so good in the morning, but it came back and pretty nicely. Now it's moving back above the buy point in above average volume here. So I think this is, you can treat that. It was sort of a pause. Now it doesn't look quite as extended as it did when it first popped out. This is a leader. This makes chips for just about everybody. It seems like that doesn't make their own chips. NVIDIA, Apple, a number of the big names, Qualcomm. So its health is, if it's doing well, it's a very good sign for the chip industry and probably for the market rally as a whole.
And for traders who may have concerns about the recent weakening fundamentals, of course, that's a factor to take into account when you are doing your overall assessment of the technicals and the fundamentals when you're looking to place stocks on your watch list or looking to buy. But we could counter that with looking at the estimates, right? For 2024, we are seeing a return to some nice growth.
Yeah, and with chips, and especially chip gear, but chips as well, these people see the cyclical turns, and it seems like they really were pricing it in early this time, like people betting way in advance of the upturn. And that's just something you have to note. Like if people see the bottom and it turns around, the market will price that in ahead of time. So, with chips in particular, you have to be looking ahead. If the outlook looks pretty good down the road, then that can make you feel encouraged, even if the very near term or the current fundamentals aren't so great.
Exactly. Great added context there, Ed. Thank you so much for that. All right. Well, that is it for today. Everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. We hope you join us tomorrow morning on IBD Live. We're going to be joined by hedge fund manager and longtime growth stock trader, Jim Ropel of Ropel Capital Management. He's going to make his return to the show. When he was on last fall, I believe it was, or a number of months ago, a previous appearance, he was keying off of that 13,100 area for the NASDAQ, saying potentially that could unleash a big rally. We'll have to get his updated thoughts on that, stocks he's watching, and so much more. So make sure you tune in, investors.com/IBD Live for that. And if you want more details on upcoming guests for all of our different shows, make sure you bookmark investors.com/events to stay up to date on all the latest. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you back here tomorrow.